Coming to you from the home of Franklin's finest, this is the APB Podcast. Here now is Franklin Police Public Information Manager, Max Winitz.
Yes, it is the first ever edition of the APB Podcast. Hi, everybody. I'm Max Winitz, the Public Information Manager for the Franklin Police Department. The beginning of a new era here for FPD, the launch of a brand spanking new podcast. We're so grateful you're joining us here today. What do we hope to accomplish with this podcast? Well, to be informative, to be transparent, to let you know what is happening here in the Franklin Police Department. Each podcast is going to start off with some news and notes, the latest and greatest happening from right inside our doors here at 900 Columbia Avenue. And then each episode will feature a different guest. We are going to interview a number of different people throughout the months. All those folks from right here at the Franklin Police Department, maybe some folks from across the street at City Hall. And we are going to feature a different topic for each podcast. 1 week we could be talking about our dive and swiftwater team and water safety, especially in the Harpeth River. Another week we could be focusing on our CID, our Criminal Investigations Division. It's really just a great way for us to let you know what is happening here at the Franklin Police Department. We're going to have a number of great interviews, and that all kicks off today. Who better than Chief Deb Faulkner, the Chief of Police from the Franklin Police Department, sitting down with us for the inaugural edition of the APB Podcast. As I mentioned earlier, Max Winitz, Public Information Manager for the Police Department. Not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about myself because that's not what this is about. But real quick, came to the Franklin Police Department over a year ago. Been here now, I think it's about 15, 16 months, something like that. It's been an amazing experience. My background is in broadcast news. I was a reporter and an anchor for a number of different markets, network affiliates in different markets throughout the years. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Haley. We have two beautiful girls, Jordan and Brighton, and then we have two rescue dogs at home as well. So that is enough about yours truly. This is all about the Franklin Police Department and the courageous, the heroic men and women who work here. So as I alluded to earlier, each episode is going to have a special guest. But before we segue into the interview part of the APB podcast, we're going to do some news and notes, the latest and greatest happening from inside the Franklin Police Department. So let's get right to it. Here's the latest headlines from the FPD. All right, you may have heard about this. Franklin Police Department is hiring. We're going to talk a lot more about this with Chief Deb Faulkner, but we just released this information about a week or so ago. Entry-level officers, $65,000 starting salary. Post-certified officers, $68,000. The new salaries, a result of the hard work put forth by the city administrator, also the Board of Mayor and Aldermen here in the city of Franklin. We are certainly grateful for that salary increase. And Franklin Police Department, obviously an amazing place to work if you are interested in a career in law enforcement. In addition to that strong starting salary, officers are going to receive a 4-day work week. They have access to a take-home vehicle. They are permitted to have beards and tattoos. A lot of departments don't allow you to do that. Officers are also eligible for college tuition reimbursement, shift differential pay, and excellent health and retirement benefits. Join FPD. Actually, let me reverse. FranklinTN.gov/join FPD is where you can apply. Again, we'll talk more about that later on the show with Chief Deb Faulkner. Also want to tell you about this great story. Again, this is another thing that you may have heard about from your favorite news station, but the Franklin Police Department recently honored this heroic 7-year-old boy, Jacob Peters, a Franklin resident, who called 911. He knew how to do it because he learned how to do it from his school here in Franklin. He called 911 because his aunt suffered a seizure and she hit her head, didn't know what was going on. Jacob picks up her cell phone. He learned how to unlock it and call 911, make that emergency call again from a lesson he learned at school. He saved her life. And we were so honored to honor him. Just last week, we gave him an award here at the Franklin Police Department, the Citizen Commendation Certificate. Jacob may be, and we're pretty sure he is the youngest person to ever receive this certificate. He is a great young man, had a chance to meet him. Everybody, a lot of the officers showed up at this award ceremony. They shook his hand. They gave him fist bumps. It was really, really neat to see. And as Chief Faulkner put it, without Jacob's swift actions, his beloved aunt could have gone for a prolonged period without receiving medical care. So Jacob, congratulations again. You are a hero, and we were so honored to be able to recognize you and your efforts. So that's the latest news from the Franklin Police Department at this time. We update constantly on our Twitter page. We also update constantly on the City of Franklin's social media platforms, whether that be Facebook or Instagram. So keep an eye out for all of our posts on those social media platforms. When we come back, we will sit down with Chief Deb Faulkner, the Chief of Police from the Franklin Police Department. We'll talk to her about her decorated career in law enforcement, which spans decades. We'll also talk to her about what issues are plaguing the Franklin Police Department right now and what our officers are experiencing out on the streets, what they are seeing, and how we can tackle those issues. So stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.
Are you ready to make a difference in your community? The Franklin Police Department is seeking dedicated, passionate individuals who want to protect and serve in the South's most charming town. As a member of our internationally accredited team, you'll be part of a dynamic, supportive department that values integrity, professionalism, and community engagement. Enjoy competitive benefits, career advancement opportunities, and the chance to truly impact the safety and well-being of our neighbors. For more information, visit franklintn.gov/joinfpd. That's franklintn.gov/joinfpd.
All right, welcome back to the inaugural edition of the APB podcast. Again, I'm Max Winitz, and what better guest to have on the first edition of the APB podcast than the Chief of Police for the Franklin Police Department, Chief Deb Faulkner. Thank you so much for joining us today.
This is important to me. I think it's any opportunity we have to communicate with the public and sort of let them know what's going on, I think is an outstanding way to go about our day.
Yeah, it was just a few weeks ago we were in your office and we were discussing some new ways, some innovative ways of reaching out to the public. And I think at the same time we started talking about a podcast, and here we are now a few weeks later. What do you hope to get out of this?
Podcast is clearly the medium of choice these days. I think they're highly popular. They actually create communities. And I think since we are a part of and not apart from the public, it's just another opportunity for us to share news, share information that's important to the public, what's going on at their police department. A podcast is something that you can do anytime. You can listen to it. You can multitask. I have friends that listen to certain podcasts when they're preparing a meal, when they're driving, when they're exercising. So it's just a really excellent way to continue to push information out.
Yeah, you tell me all the time you see people walking, jogging down your street with headphones on, and they're listening to podcasts.
Yeah, because I'll stop them to say hello, and they'll go, "What? Just a minute." Okay. So they hit pause. And, I'll often ask them what they're listening to just to try to get a feel for what's interesting to the public. And I think we have a great story to tell.
Sure. Let's tell that story. Right now, the Franklin Police Department, we announced this, a week or two ago that we are hiring once again. Tell me a little bit about what we're looking for, and the dates and when people can apply and how they can apply.
Well, they can apply right now up until mid-May. I think it's like May 18th is the cutoff. You can do it online. It's a great opportunity for a man or a woman who has, they've always thought that's really something I'd like to do. That's a way to give back to the community. That's a way to learn more and to contribute. And more importantly, it's such an amazing life purpose to have, to wear the badge and to work for this city. The benefits are amazing. We're lucky that we have a city administrator, a mayor, and aldermen that support public safety. The pay has just been raised. It's $68,000 a year for experienced law enforcement officers who are already post-certified. If you just are beginning your career, it would be $65,000. But there's so many opportunities within. We have a lot of special operations that are not only challenging but interesting to especially to young people starting out their career, whether it be SWAT or a dive team, our hostage negotiators, our motorcycle officers. We have bicycle officers. We have officers that that do different things in the community, and for many of these special operations, you get a stipend, you get extra pay, and also on-call pay. Certainly for our detectives. There's also shift differential for night shift and midnight shift. One of the really popular things is the take-home vehicle, and we have great-looking vehicles. Mm-hmm. But there's lots of training opportunities. We encourage officers to go back and get their college degree. We have college tuition reimbursement. Education is important to me and to the people that we serve here in Franklin. So I hope people will think about it, spread the news, let people know that we're hiring.
And also beards and tattoos, welcome.
Yeah, a lot of agencies don't have that. They don't allow that, but we do allow beards and tattoos.
What is it about, you mentioned some of the really neat units that this department has, SWAT, dive team, Swiftwater. I mean, what else is it about this department that stands out maybe above the rest? I mean we're both biased here, but I can tell you that it just seems like because of the support we have from this community, because of community policing, that's what makes this department so very successful.
Yeah, we're blessed in that the people here in Franklin are so supportive. We have a lot of volunteers, our LEAP program, our Citizens Police Academy. Anytime we've called on them or we've had an officer that's had a tragedy or something very distressing going on in their life, they really pitch in and help. And that means more than any of these other things that I've mentioned, is to have the support of the people that you serve. You can't do this job. It's a part of our mission to give back in partnership with the community, and you just can't be successful without that. So we know how lucky we are.
And what is it about the city of Franklin that you like so much when it comes to both working and living?
I'm a native Nashvilleian, but I often came to Franklin for different activities, whether it was to shop downtown on Main Street, to go to various historic landmarks and living history. I love history, so that was right up my alley. I love the convenience to other things that you might want to do, whether it's in Nashville or surrounding Middle Tennessee area. But we have just about everything you need right here in Franklin, so why go anywhere else? The culture, the quality of life that we enjoy here, you can't get it anywhere else. And we know it's beautiful, it's clean. People who work for the city keep it that way, and our job is to keep it safe, and we do.
Let's talk about Deb Faulkner. You've been...
Really?
Yeah. Chief is somebody who doesn't like to talk about herself, and I do respect that. And I think you want to showcase the men and women of this department. And I totally respect that. But you're the guest on the podcast today, so we got to ask you questions about your upbringing and how you became the chief here in Franklin. But you've been here for 11 years. You spent 3 decades in Metro. A lot of people may not realize this, and you're in good company here, but you graduated with a degree in broadcast journalism. You did not expect to get into a law enforcement career. So tell me how that all panned out.
No, I think a lot of people that I interview for this job over the years is, oh, it's always been my dream job. Well, it wasn't my dream job because it wasn't available. My generation of women came through a time when we were very limited as far as career opportunities. And so, yes, I graduated with a broadcast journalism degree. I thought I was really going to be out there telling the story, digging out corruption in government and putting it out there for people to know about. Little did I know those opportunities weren't available. I worked at the Grand Ole Opry for WSM and thought that might be a hook to go to work for WSM, both radio, and at that time they also were part of the television station. And there weren't any women doing broadcasting. They did cooking shows and things like that. And I'm not downplaying that. That's important, and I watch them today. But it's not what I wanted. It's not what my family sacrificed for to put me through college. So a Metro Nashville officer also worked at the Grand Ole Opry, and he knew I was kind of down, and he said, well, they're taking applications at the police department. Why don't you apply? And I said, yeah, they don't have women that work in law enforcement. He said, yeah, they work as detectives. And so I talked about it, and I mentioned it to my family, and I remember my mother said, you might like that. And that was kind of a clue. And so I signed up, and surprised me, they hired me, but it wasn't to be a detective. It was to be one of the first women in uniform patrol. And I worked Lower East Nashville and patrol and loved it. Mm-hmm. It turned out to be everything that I didn't know I wanted, and a whole lot more.
Yeah.
I love it.
And you found out what's really unique. You had no knowledge of anybody in your family being a police officer. But you found out years later, after you had already started your career, that you did, in fact, have somebody in your family who was in law enforcement. Tell me about that.
I did. I was kind of at a point in my life when I was interested in my ancestry. And so I had gone down to Lawrenceburg and was visiting with my grandmother and grandfather. And so I asked the question on the front porch one day, tell me about our family. And my grandfather said, oh, you don't want to know about that. He was Irishman. He said, we don't talk about that. And I said, yeah, I really need to know. I'd like to know more about things. I think there's a reason for things. And I just kind of like to know more about my family. So he eventually, after a lot of nagging, told me a story about my great uncle who had been an officer in Pulaski. And he and his partner were on the square one night walking back to where they had an office on the square near the courthouse. And they were both ambushed, shot, and killed. And he left a wife and 5 children. And to read the stories, and I went back and pulled old newspaper clippings to read. Now I really wanted to know more. It was such a sad thing. And I asked my grandfather, I said, I've been a police officer for 5 or 6 years, and you never told me this. And he said, we don't talk about it. It's too sad. And he's right. But the irony to me, I always thought, was that, your ancestors have a hand in shaping who you are. And in my case, it was spot on.
Mm-hmm. What do you want? We mentioned earlier you have a degree in broadcasting, but what are some of the other interesting tidbits about you? I know that one of the first things we bonded over was that you enjoy fly fishing, as do I. But to somebody at home who only knows Deb Faulkner, the police chief, what do you want them to know about you in your personal life?
Not really anything. I don't think it's that interesting. I work hard. I think my job is to take care of the people who take care of us, and I put a lot of focus on that. I do like to garden. I wish I was looking at my yard this morning as I came to work, and I thought I really got to do that. But it is a way to express yourself somewhat, and I just enjoy digging in the dirt. Of course, when you live in Franklin, you never know what you're going to dig up. You have to be careful when you live in a historic area. But I'm fascinated by history. I do read a lot, but I'm just thankful to live in a city where we can feel safe and have a good quality of life, and that's certainly what I feel. I do love fly fishing. I haven't done it much. I like to catch and release. Mm-hmm. It takes you to beautiful places, and maybe that's the Irish in me, that I love to fly fish. I love almost the choreography of it.
It's an art.
It is, and I learned how to do it by taking a class with a bunch of women who were all high-stress professions. And what we found at the end of the day, by casting and just being in the outdoors, and what a wonderful way to spend a morning or an afternoon, especially in the fall when the leaves are changing. And I've been to a few places outside of Tennessee. There's no place prettier than Tennessee, but the geese fly over and you see the deer, and mm-hmm. it's just, it kind of mellows you out a little bit, and Lord knows I could use that.
Yeah. And speaking of animals, you are also the proud owner of 2 pugs, probably just the opposite of what you would envision a police chief to have. Not a Belgian Malinois, not a German Shepherd, but you love your 2 little pugs.
Yeah, I've had several pugs, and they're great dogs. They're a little high maintenance, but they're just their personality and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I love my pugs, Buckshot and Darcy.
Buckshot and Darcy.
Mm-hmm.
You've had such a decorated, illustrious career. What would you say has been your crowning achievement? What do you think has been your biggest accomplishment thus far?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. Having gone through the Metro Nashville Police Department Training Academy at the time, we started out with 2 women, and she quit. And I remember the day she quit, I said, "No, you're not quitting. You're not leaving me here." I was very proud to have completed that. It was hard work, and it should be hard work. They only want the best and the brightest, and I think that's when somebody calls the police, when they're having the worst day of their life. I think that's what they want us to send, is our best and our brightest. But that was a challenge, and I succeeded. I got through it. I was lucky enough to work with some amazing men in patrol. Having gone through the FBI National Academy, that was another challenge, both physically and mentally, and I was proud to achieve that. I was elected as state president for Tennessee FBI National Academy graduates, and I've since served as the president of the Tennessee Chiefs of Police. So all the chiefs in Tennessee, they're great people, and I was honored to serve as the president of that organization. Also, Governor Lee appointed me to the Post Commission, where there is a group of men and women who discuss training standards for law enforcement all across the state. I was honored to be selected for that by Governor Lee. I've served for the last 6 years on the commission. So there's been a number of things that I'm especially proud of and honored. I don't take any of it lightly. I'm always pleased when someone takes notice that you do try hard and work hard.
What else is there left for you to accomplish? What do you really want to tackle in your, remaining years in law enforcement?
I want to make sure that the Franklin Police Department stays staffed, equipped, and well trained. This is a growing city, and the department has to keep up. We have to grow along with it. So I think that's important. That's kind of my mission right now. I'm always aware, having been in broadcast journalism, I'm constantly a fiend about watching the news and reading everything I can, looking to see what's occurring in other parts, not just in the country, but in the world, because we're so global. And there's so many challenges to law enforcement right now with planning all of the special events that we have. There's somewhat 40 plus every year here in Franklin, and people will come if they feel safe, and that's our job, is to make sure that they're comfortable and they look around and they see police officers. There's a lot they don't see that we plan and prepare for, but so that's important. And then just the changing of the types of calls that our officers are receiving. More and more, we're dealing with deeply serious human issues. And we know that those first seconds of approaching someone, what we say and do is so important. And so we talk about de-escalation, and we talk about, how to shift gears from one extreme to the other. I mean, one moment you're taking a report that seems rather routine, maybe it's a stolen license plate or a bicycle or a vandalism, and then suddenly all of your adrenaline starts pumping because you've got to get to a very serious call where somebody's in danger. So it's those extremes that you have to always be ready for. And we try to check our officers both physically, mentally, and it's a very spiritual job as well. So we have checks and balances for the men and women who work here to make sure that they stay healthy.
And I think that's one of the things that stood out to CALEA, the organization that provides the accreditation. Mm-hmm. They were very impressed with the effort that this department puts into the mental and physical health of the officers. And I know you were extremely proud of that.
Yes, I am. We have been accredited internationally, both that and state, internationally for 24 years, and with the state of Tennessee through the Chiefs Association for over 5 years. And that's important. That shows that we're looking for best practices and high standards to meet. But regarding our health, we do have an on-site psychologist who is readily available at any time to just sit and talk to an officer. We check for PTSD because we have 38 military veterans. We do debriefings after some of the major calls that officers go to, just to kind of let them sort of get it off their chest and not hold it inside, but talk about it. And so she's there to facilitate it. I think that's all very important.
Sure. Well, I want to thank you for your time. This was terrific. As the chief mentioned earlier in the broadcast, we are hiring. If you are interested in submitting an application, you can go to franklintn.gov/joinfpd, franklintn.gov/joinfpd. The deadline, May 18th, correct?
Yes.
May 18th, okay. Well, Chief, thank you again. Thank you for joining us at home. We hope to see you next time, and stay safe, everybody.